Drive-thru workers at Reddit. What's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone's car? I worked at McDonald's when I was 15-16 and a guy came through and ordered just an orange juice. The guy in the seat next to him had a nail from a nail gun through his hand and was shaking. The guy said the orange juice was to stop the guy from going into shock. You know what else helps when you go into shock? A doctor. In a hospital. Guy rolls through on the phone. What if a brings a knife and we gotta fight our way out? Or a cop shows up with a gun. I didn't ask if he wanted sauce. But I did toss a plastic knife in his bag. I worked the DT at McDonald's when I was 16 and 17. And one time this beater of a sedan pulled up with a middle-aged woman and a couple of kids inside. The kids were jumping all over the place, unbuckled and freaking out. And instead of a key, she had a screwdriver jammed in the ignition. I suppose she could have just owned a TTY car and had rowdy kids. But at the time I really thought she had kidnapped the kids and stolen the car. A guy I know had his car stolen. And when he got it back, the only way it would start is with a screwdriver because the thieves had wrecked the steering column. He was too poor to fix it. So that's what he had to do. Even so, I like your story better. Guy who ordered a single meal was driving while a couple in the backseat were obviously having sex under a blanket. We figured it might have been some sort of dare. Bro. The bang bus really has fallen on hard times. Twist. The couple F-king in the backseat cannot stop F-king or they both die. The driver of the car is their caretaker. And he feeds them while they FCK because he cares so much for the woman. But he hates the man. The woman is the driver's wife. You see. And he would rather her survive and be FK'd constantly than die. A friend of mine worked at an ice cream place. The woman ordered 5 ice cream cones. When she pulled around she saw that the woman had 4 dolls buckled into the back seat. We used to have a guy who would order every so often and when he drove up he wasn't ever wearing pants or underwear, just had a tiny washcloth over his junk. Where the sh*t do you live? I used to work at a Burger King in a sort of poor part of town. About 2 times a week. Man, probably in his mid-30s, with crooked teeth, a lazy eye, and a hillbilly accent would pull up in a really old bitter and get 3 orders of value chicken nuggets, 12 nuggets, with barbecue sauce, a large fry, and 2 large Sprites. This wouldn't seem very odd except for the fact that, in the passenger seat, was a blow-up SX doll, whom he talked to, and frequently asked, "Ya want anything ELZ?" Full stop. It was incredibly weird. Like a real-life version of Lars and the Real Girl, Hillbilly Edition. Working the MCD's DT. Back in the day, I watched a lady use the dash as a plate, open up 2 ketchup packets and squirt it directly onto what was not a clean dashboard. She dumped the fries out next to it and went to town. WTF. I worked in a drive-thru coffee house all through college. Tons of weird shit happened. We were on the outskirts of town. But the all-time creepiest? A guy came through in a clearly stolen car. He was absolutely filthy and started yelling about Columbine. He wouldn't leave for the longest time. Was an all-around weird customer. A few days later, I'm bringing in the newspapers and this guy's face is splashed across the front. Turns out he went in a killing spree. Killing someone in Arizona and a few people in Idaho. He came through just 15 or so minutes before the last murder. TL. Dr. A crazy murderer came through my drive-thru minutes before he committed his last murder. Edit. A few people have asked for the guy's name. It's John Delling. I'm on my phone and having trouble linking to the article. But he's super easy to find on Google. I guess this kind of counts. When I worked at a small town McDonald's one morning, our first customer through Drive-Thru reported to us that there was a goat head on top of our drive-thru speaker out back. When the store manager went and checked, sure enough there was a severed goat's head on top of the drive-thru speaker. Him and the maintenance guy cleaned it up. Still have no idea who did it or why. The manager didn't call the cops because he didn't want to give the culprits the publicity. You have a smart manager. Not a drive-thru worker. But I have a story. One time I pulled up behind a large SUV at a drive-thru. The SUV was rocking back and forth and there were these weird moaning sounds coming from the back. My friend and I just glanced at each other but didn't say anything. Then this grotesque, horned face appears in the back window, looks at us coldly, and says "Bah bah." The SUV was full of goats. Working at KFC, we had an empty car pull up once. Evidently the occupants saw the police nearby and fled their stolen car. Blew my mind when I turned round at the window to give them their food and the car was empty. Edit. Damn Caucasians stealing cars and going to KFC. A kid beating up his mom like it was nothing. He told him we were waiting on his food to cook. And called the cops. His sister is in prison for the same thing. Edit. This probably isn't even the weirdest thing. But the most f-ked up thing. Weirdest thing was my friend's dad got a call at like 2 AM on a drunk driver. And followed him through the drive-thru. Ordered food. And asked me if he was drunk. My town is f-ked up. I work at an Arby's in Indiana. About a year ago a woman came through with a pet monkey in a diaper on a leash. She handed me her money. Acted like everything was normal. When I went to hand her the change, the monkey jumped in the window, took the change and hopped back. Guy came through with a snake wrapped around him. Girl came through completely naked. 6 kids squished in the back seat. Ages 2-10. Car full of popcorn. Clearly got pranked earlier and no FCKS were given. Saw a girl poke up from the trunk area of an SUV. Turns out to be one of my employees who called in sick that day and got her friends to drive her through. Also there's a regular that comes in with a cat and a parrot. That both sit on his side mirrors as he drives. Wait. Outside of the car? Saw a dude getting a blowjob when he rolled up. I handed him his McFlurry. Girl popped her head up. Ate a spoonful and went back down. Dude gave me a head nod with a wink and drove off. That is the most gangster post in this whole thread. Maybe not the weirdest but the most dickish. I was hanging out after hours with a friend who was finishing up her shift. She was working drive-thru, which was the only thing actually open. Some people came through and just asked for a couple cups of water. She says it costs $0.50 for that. Stupid f***ing rule. But they said they didn't have any money. She said, "Ah well. No big deal. Come on through." And handed 2 cups of water to the person in the back seat. That's how they pulled up. Close bracket. The guy yells "Thanks, bitch," and throws the 2 cups of water on her. Then drives away. People are assholes. That is so mean and not even funny. Not a drive-thru, but a drive-in restaurant. This lady used to come pretty frequently with 2 baby carriers in the back. The lady orders 3 ham and cheddars and starts eating one, while feeding the other to what I assumed was a baby in the back. I see a terrifyingly long limb emerge from the carrier and grab a piece of the ham and cheese. Turns out the lady raises kangaroos and they love ham and cheese. It's now a weekly occurrence to visit the ham and cheese kangaroos. A small monkey. I shit you not. A live monkey. I asked the lady why she had it. She said it was a robot. A monkey. In a McDonald's drive-thru. In the middle of Texas. Oh. That was just Texas robo-monkey taking a break from fighting crime. The people are weirder than any object in a vehicle. Arguing with me whether or not eggs are in our milkshakes because I'm a vegetarian for 2 days, but I guess I don't want to eat something healthy like salad, and I can't have eggs. No, our shakes don't have eggs. Really? Yes, really. Why is that information not on your menu? Okay, do you want to speak to the manager? Rambles to my manager about our ingredients and that nutrition brochure she was handed can't be trusted because FDA corrupt. Another time she came through and asked us if we would bake her fries with her Big Mac meal, in the oven because fried food is unhealthy. I worked at Arby's in high school and saw countless dicks perverts were out for display. I'd smile, take their money, then ask, "Surely you're not proud of that?" Then they'd drive off without their food or money. I'd delete the transaction and pocket the cash. Bet you wanna go dick flashing tonight. Working at McDonald's, I've had a regular customer who drives through just about every day, twice a day, and he is always shaving his face with an electric razor. Every single time. A long time ago I used to be a drive-thru worker. There was a lady who would come through every single day and her car would always be literally packed full of bread buns up to the ceiling. I always wanted to ask WTF she was doing with all the bread, but I never did. I also saw a woman come through high as hell every day reeking of weed with her daughter in the back seat. Topless. Wearing no seatbelt. That was pretty upsetting every time it happened. The bread and buns could have been a soup kitchen delivery. Lot of times the soup kitchens will get restaurants to donate their day-old bread. Someone has to go pick it up and they'd be driving around with a car full of bread. Man. I'm probably here too late. But oh well. A couple years ago, I worked at a drive-thru and this guy came around to pay. When he got there, he asked, "Hey, did I say I wanted extra pickles on that? Because I want extra pickles on that." I informed him that his burger was already made and ready to go, but offered to have a new one fixed up with a satisfactory amount of pickles. The man paused, then had a look of realization. He looked up and said, "Don't worry about it. Now that I think about it, I think I might have some extra ones right here." This valued customer then proceeded to open up his glove compartment and pull out a giant jar of sliced pickles. It was weird. TL. DR man keeps a jar of pickles in his car. Multiple stories here. Other than the normal people doing drugs every day. First one was a couple having sex. The woman was riding the driver as I was taking their money and handing them their food. They were both completely naked as far as I could tell. Another was a hearse that had a bed in the back with blankets and everything. My guess was that he lived in it. Last one. When I was taking the order, all I heard were birds. When she pulled around, she had at least 20 birds flying freely in the car and some raccoons and things wandering around. Snow White. Nothing in the car but once. I thought it'd be funny to go through a drive-thru with the car backwards. My friend was sitting on the trunk pretending she was driving. We freaked out the window attendant. This comment has been overwritten by an open source script. If you would like to do the same, feel free to PM me. I always thought it was really weird when people would come through with their cats running around in their cars. But I liked it. For all the drive-thru workers, I'd like to say the same. But to all the Taco Bell drive-thru workers, why you always screw me on sauce? How is one packet of sauce enough for a whole burrito? Edit. Apparently the Taco Bells in my town are just the worst ones ever and everyone else gets ridiculous amounts of sauce. FCK. Edit 2. Apparently a shit ton of people actually do get screwed like me. Also, after avoiding fast food for over a month, reading 300 comment replies about Taco Bell has made it impossible for me to not eat it for lunch today. So thanks a f-king lot. Guys. I worked at a McDonald's when I was 16 and while I was working the drive-thru I had a lady get attacked by her cat while she was pulling up. It was one of the funniest things I have ever seen. I'm a car hop at Sonic. I've seen some truly weird, unexpected things. Here's a list. Potted hair, marijuana plants. Several very human looking dolls seat belted in. A car filled with fast food trash. Smelled like there were festering leftovers as well. Several fleshlights posting up on passenger seats. And a backseat that had been converted to a giant litter box for 4 cats that I presume lived in that car. Fast food service is never dull. 13-ish-year-old girl flashed me, legs spread, skirt and no panties, from a back seat. Her dad was driving. It was years ago and I was 18. Yeah. Working drive-thru at Burger King with a very sheltered 17-year-old girl. I was 16-17 at the time and I'm a guy. I'm getting the food. She's taking the money when suddenly I hear her say, "Hi there. That'll be and she quite literally runs away. We're getting slammed. And I have no time for this, so I walk over to the window and tell the obese naked man with the smallest erect penis I've ever seen what his total is. Take his money. Give him his double whoppers with extra mayo and wish him a pleasant evening. Unfortunately, I later discovered more people go to the drive-thru without pants than you'd think. I don't work at a drive-thru, but I used to work at an oil change place. We had to get the spare tire out of some guy's trunk. So we had to take a few things out. Stashed in the corner was a bottle of Jameson, a box of Magnum condoms, KY lube, and a small leather bag I was not about to open. The customer was 60 plus and walked with a cane. I saw an old redneck couple drive through watching PRN on a laptop once. That was interesting. People dressed up as zombies in almost every car that came through in a single night. Turns out there was a zombie walk in Minneapolis and they were migrating north. Same night I had 2 people fall asleep at the drive-thru window. I have never had that happen before or since. What worries me is one of those people had a baby strapped in the back seat. I work at a MCDS. And this is not entirely relevant to the thread, but it's my favorite story. Well, one of them. From work. A woman came through with her family in the car and ordered one of the hamburgers with extra onion. She got to my window, I was the server, and asked whether we'd put extra onion on it. I told her we had, which was correct. But she proceeded to check and decide there wasn't enough onion. We asked her to park up and we'd run her out a fresh burger with extra onion. I took the burger out myself. Still not enough onion. How much onion does this woman want? I take it back inside and watch the guy in the kitchen pile onion onto this burger. She accepts it this time. It's fine. There's enough onion. She hands the burger to her young kid in the back of the car. A few minutes later, she runs up to my drive-thru window begging for some plastic bags. We don't have any, because her son's thrown up in her car. It took all my willpower not to ask if it was the bloody onions. I don't work at a drive-thru. I'm a parking attendant. Just the other day at work, I walk by a car and a couple of youngsters are sitting in it. Nothing new. Except the passenger had a blow-up doll on his lap. The look of guilt on their face almost made me lose my professional frown. Almost. I worked in a drive-thru for most of high school. One night a guy came through totally wasted. He was acting weird and slurring all of his words. Obviously drunk. And he had a kid in the back seat. Soon as he pulled off, I got his license plate number and called the cops. About a half hour later the cops came to the restaurant to tell me that they pulled the guy over and he wasn't drunk. He had multiple sclerosis. Finally, a chance to tell this story. When I was 16 I worked midnights at McDonald's in the summer. And since it was the summer a great many drunks came through my drive-thru. Once. At about 2 AM. Which we called the bar rush. Because all the bars would let out and an unbelievable amount of people would stop by on their way home. A car full of drunk 20-somethings pulls up. The guy I'm interacting with, the driver, has a jacket on his lap. And underneath that is a girl who I can safely assume was making him quite happy. I stared open-mouthed for a few seconds before taking his money and giving him his food. McDonald's drive-thru after dark is a strange and terrifying place, my friends. Living in Hawaii, I worked at a McDonald's at the bottom of a big hill in which boar hunters would hunt. Well, my first job and I was new to the island, so when a large pickup truck came and they had crossbows and shti and like 4 massive boars strapped to the back of their truck, I just stared at it like WTFFFFF. Now I know that just like the mainland, boars are a huge problem in Hawaii. Till if you go through the drive-thru without getting a blowjob, you're doing it wrong. You know those cars that people find in parking lots absolutely filled with trash? Guess where the owners frequent? I worked at a McDonald's drive-thru about a year ago. And one night I saw the guy getting a BJ from a girl he had in the passenger seat as he was ordering via the security camera feed. Guy then begins to brag about it to me as he pays for his food. Told me they met on Match.com.